Breaking news from Expedition Bigfoot, and this time, it's not another wild claim from the woods. Bryce Johnson, one of the lead investigators, has come forward with something that Discovery Channel never wanted the public to hear. What he revealed about what really happened deep in those forests is disturbing and could change everything we thought we knew about the show. In the next few minutes, we're going to uncover the truth Bryce said was never meant to be released, why footage from Season 4 was quietly removed, and how a secret team may have interfered with the investigation. Whatever he found, it terrified him. And once you hear what he confessed, you'll understand why this story is shaking the entire paranormal community. Make sure you subscribe right now, because what comes next might not stay online for long. Before the headlines, before the interviews, Bryce Johnson was known as the calm, level-headed voice of Expedition Bigfoot. He wasn't the one chasing shadows or screaming in the woods. He was the skeptic, the steady presence who kept the team grounded while others let their imaginations run wild. But over the last few weeks, Bryce's name has exploded across the internet for reasons no one saw coming. The man who once laughed off conspiracy theories is now at the center of one. And what he's revealed is so disturbing, so unexpected, that even longtime fans of the show are struggling to believe it. It all started during the filming of a new season deep in Washington state, the same dense forests where more Bigfoot sightings have been reported than anywhere else in North America. According to Bryce, the crew wasn't alone out there. From the first night, strange activity began around camp. Heavy footsteps circled their tents, branches snapped in patterns that felt deliberate, and distant, guttural sounds echoed through the trees. At first, Bryce thought it was wildlife, but when they reviewed thermal footage the next morning, something didn't add up. On screen, behind one of the crew members, a large upright figure appeared briefly before vanishing into the brush. It wasn't a bear. It was taller, slimmer, and moving in a way that seemed almost calculated. Bryce demanded they analyze the footage frame by frame. The next day, the clip was gone. Producers claimed a corrupted file, but Bryce didn't buy it. He started keeping private notes and audio logs, describing things the audience never saw: flashing lights between the treetops, distorted whispers that mimicked crew voices, and a sensation that something was watching them with intelligence, not instinct. What Bryce didn't know then was that this footage would never see the light of day, and the truth about what they found would lead to a chain of events that ended with him breaking his silence in the most shocking way imaginable. Bryce Johnson's breaking point began with a single piece of footage, one the public was never supposed to see. It happened during the third week of filming in the Olympic National Forest, an area known for its eerie, unexplained activity. According to Bryce, the team was running a late-night perimeter check when one of the cameramen, Ethan, caught something unusual through the thermal lens. At first, it looked like heat signatures flickering between the trees, but when they zoomed in, everyone froze. The shape was massive, nearly 8 feet tall, and moving in complete silence. It seemed to be watching them. Ethan kept filming until the figure turned, exposing its outline against the thermal contrast. The problem was, it didn't look entirely solid. Its edges flickered like static, as if part of its body wasn't fully there. The creature, or whatever it was, moved forward, gliding more than walking. The next moment, the entire camera feed distorted, static, screeching audio. Then, nothing. The power cut out across every device they had running. When power returned 20 minutes later, the footage appeared intact, but just barely. Bryce insisted they back it up immediately. He took a copy on his personal laptop and handed the original drive to production. By morning, both files were gone. The footage wasn't corrupted, it was erased, and not just deleted, wiped clean. Their tech operator confirmed the drives had been manually reformatted sometime around 3:12 a.m., right after the encounter. Bryce confronted the producers, demanding an explanation. They brushed it off as a data malfunction caused by moisture or magnetic interference. But the lead cameraman revealed something that made Bryce's blood run cold. Around the same time the footage disappeared, 2 unmarked vehicles had been spotted parked off the logging road near camp. No one on the crew recognized them. By dawn, they were gone. Later that week, Bryce received a message from a private number. It contained a single image, a blurry, still frame from that very encounter, and 3 words beneath it: "Stop showing this." He didn't know who sent it, but from that moment on, the tone of Expedition Bigfoot changed. Security was suddenly tightened. The crew was told to stay in pairs, and every card, every drive, was logged by a new consultant no one had ever seen before. Bryce's unease turned into obsession. He began questioning whether the show he had helped create was being monitored, and if someone out there, or something, wanted their discovery to vanish forever. After the incident with the deleted footage, Bryce Johnson's skepticism began to crumble. He wasn't the same calm investigator the audience remembered. Something had shifted. He started digging into every hard drive, every GPS log, every email thread connected to Expedition Bigfoot. That's when he stumbled across something he wasn't meant to find. A folder labeled Northwind Access, buried deep within the production's encrypted server. Inside were coordinates that didn't match any of the publicized filming location. They pointed to an area nearly 40 miles north of their supposed base camp, land that, on paper, didn't even exist. Bryce cross-referenced it with Google Earth, but the imagery blurred out halfway through the terrain, as if deliberately censored. He took the coordinates to the field team, but producers immediately shut him down, claiming it was a private reserve owned by the federal government. Still, Bryce couldn't let it go. A few days later, he approached a former production assistant named Greg Hill, who quietly admitted that Expedition Bigfoot had filmed there before, under military escort. Greg claimed that during Season 2, a small off-record crew had been granted permission to explore this restricted zone for less than 24 hours. The reason? A thermal anomaly spotted on satellite imaging that appeared to move across several miles of dense forest in a single night. According to Greg, everyone involved signed non-disclosure agreements, but one detail slipped through the cracks. The anomaly emitted electromagnetic interference that caused drone batteries to drain instantly. It wasn't an animal, Greg told Bryce. It was something bigger, something powered. Bryce's discovery confirmed his growing fear. The show wasn't just about tracking folklore anymore. They were being led into areas tied to classified research, possibly connected to the government's quiet interest in non-human biological entities. The deeper he looked, the more he realized Expedition Bigfoot might not have been documenting a legend at all. It might have been walking straight into one of America's most guarded secrets. After Bryce uncovered the hidden coordinates, the tension among the Expedition Bigfoot team grew unbearable. Everyone could feel it. Something was off. Their usual excitement for the hunt had turned into quiet paranoia. Crew members stopped talking freely around the cameras, and producers insisted all footage be reviewed before Bryce or anyone else could see it. Then, one night in late November, something happened that none of them have ever fully recovered from. It was near the end of their shoot in the Olympic Peninsula. The crew had set up camp near a ridge overlooking a fog-choked valley. Bryce, along with Ronnie LeBlanc and a small team, was preparing for a night surveillance run when they realized one of their drone operators, Chris Hayden, hadn't returned from scouting a nearby trail. He'd left less than 30 minutes earlier to set up a new camera angle, but his walkie-talkie had gone silent. At first, they assumed it was another equipment failure, but when they tried to track his GPS signal, they realized something was wrong. Chris's locator pinged erratically for about 2 minutes, first a quarter-mile east of camp, then suddenly 4 miles north. The signal then cut out entirely. Bryce, Ronnie, and 2 others grabbed flashlights and hiked toward the last known location. When they reached it, they found the drone still powered on, its rotors spinning in the dirt, but Chris was gone. The only sign of him was his headset, lying next to a tree snapped clean in half, as if crushed under immense force. For hours they searched, calling his name, firing flares, but there was no trace. By sunrise, local authorities were brought in, though curiously, the rangers who arrived weren't locals. They were escorted by 2 men in black uniforms with no visible identification. They refused to answer questions and ordered the Expedition Bigfoot crew to leave the area immediately. That same afternoon, Bryce was handed a statement to read on camera. It claimed Chris had left due to a personal emergency. Bryce refused. He didn't just walk off, he later said. Something took him. Days later, the footage from that night, including the search, vanished from the archives, replaced with generic filler shots. Bryce realized the pattern was clear. Every time they got too close to something real, someone stepped in and erased it. But this time, it wasn't just data that disappeared, it was a person. And Bryce couldn't shake the feeling that what happened to Chris was a warning, not just to the team, but to him personally. In the days following Chris Hayden's disappearance, Bryce Johnson spiraled into a sleepless obsession. He wasn't just trying to figure out what had happened to his missing crewmate, he was trying to understand why every trace of him was being scrubbed clean. By now, every member of Expedition Bigfoot was under constant supervision from network advisors, mysterious figures who had appeared on set overnight. Their badges bore no company logos, their names were never shared, and their presence was justified only as security. Bryce knew better. One night, while reviewing leftover backup footage from the ridge, he found something strange buried in the audio files. It was an encrypted frequency spike, an odd rhythmic signal repeating every few seconds. To the untrained ear, it was just static. But when Bryce slowed it down, a hidden sequence of tones emerged. He sent the audio to a former sound engineer he trusted from the Ancient Aliens production team. The response came back hours later in a single encrypted text. "You're not supposed to have this. It's a code, and it's human-made." The sound wasn't random. It was a pattern of transmissions, coordinates embedded within the sound waves themselves. When Bryce plotted them, his stomach dropped. The points led to a stretch of land inside restricted territory at Fort Lewis, Washington, a known government testing ground for aerospace technology. But here's the chilling part. Those coordinates were only 12 miles away from where Chris had vanished. Bryce wanted answers, so he reached out to a contact in a private intelligence group. What they told him nearly made him abandon the show altogether. The code embedded in the recording was a distress signal formatted in a way used by experimental Black Ops communication systems, frequencies that weren't supposed to exist outside military hands. The timestamp on the data, the same hour Chris went missing. Someone, or something, was trying to send a message. The realization consumed Bryce. If this was a rescue signal, why cover it up? Why lie about Chris's disappearance? The only logical explanation was that Expedition Bigfoot had stumbled into classified territory, something far bigger than a myth in the woods. That night, Bryce received another text from an anonymous number. "You're getting too close, Johnson. Stop decoding what you don't understand." He didn't know it yet, but this was only the beginning of the nightmare. After weeks of paranoia and sleepless nights, Bryce Johnson finally broke his silence, but not on camera. Late one evening, during a live stream meant to promote Expedition Bigfoot's new season, viewers noticed that Bryce seemed unusually tense. His smile was forced, his eyes darted off screen as though he expected someone to burst through the door. He cut the stream short, claiming a technical issue. But less than an hour later, a private audio clip began circulating online, allegedly leaked from a conversation Bryce had with a close friend in production. In the recording, Bryce admitted he had been warned to stop asking questions about the missing footage and the restricted coordinates. He claimed the warning didn't come from the network. It came from someone above that. When his friend pressed him to explain, Bryce's voice dropped to a whisper. "They told me I saw something I wasn't supposed to, and they said, if I talk, I'll end up like Chris." The clip grew darker from there. Bryce described how his hotel room key stopped working days after the discovery, how he'd find his phone battery drained overnight, even when powered off, and how an unmarked black SUV had followed him from Los Angeles to Oregon while he was visiting family. "I thought it was paranoia," he said. "Then they sent me photos of me from that night in the woods, shots that were never filmed by my team." When the audio leaked to Reddit and paranormal forums, it spread like wildfire. Fans began demanding answers, tagging Travel Channel and Discovery executives. But instead of addressing it, the companies doubled down on silence. Bryce disappeared from public appearances for nearly 2 weeks, missing interviews and scheduled conventions. When he finally re-emerged, he looked gaunt and nervous, as though he hadn't slept in days. He refused to discuss the leaked audio, stating only, "There are things out there that aren't meant for TV, and some of them are watching us." It was no longer entertainment. It was a warning, and for Bryce Johnson, it might have already been too late. After Bryce Johnson's ominous return, things took a darker turn. Determined to prove that he wasn't losing his mind, he convinced a small film crew, trusted colleagues who had once worked on the earliest seasons, to accompany him back to the last known Expedition Bigfoot location. He wanted closure, or proof, or both. What he found instead was something that defied every law of nature he'd ever studied. The group set out deep into the forest near Mount Hood, Oregon, the same area where several episodes had been filmed before being abruptly pulled from rotation. At first, it was just like any other shoot: drone footage, tracking equipment, static cameras mounted to trees. But hours in, their monitors began to glitch. Compass readings reversed direction, drone feeds froze mid-air, and when night fell, the forest came alive with sounds that didn't match any species native to the Pacific Northwest. Bryce claimed later that what happened next was caught on one of the few cameras that didn't lose signal. At 2:47 a.m., a massive heat signature appeared on the thermal scanner. It moved on two legs but emitted no body heat consistent with mammals. Its core temperature was far below freezing. When they tried to approach, a high-pitched hum filled the air, so powerful it caused one cameraman to collapse. Then, clear as day, the team heard it, a deep, resonant voice echoing through the trees, repeating a single phrase: "Do not return." Bryce froze. It wasn't broadcast over a speaker, it wasn't human. The voice was coming from the forest itself. The next morning, the team found their gear destroyed, lenses cracked, memory cards melted, and tree bark around their campsite seared in circular patterns, as if by heat from above. When Bryce returned home, one drive still worked, a corrupted video file that, when stabilized, showed an indistinct shape hovering among the trees. The strangest part? The figure's outline matched the same 7-foot form seen in the banned Expedition Bigfoot pilot episode, the one that mysteriously vanished from network archives years earlier. Bryce had his evidence now, but the cost of revealing it would be devastating. When Bryce Johnson returned from Mount Hood, he was shaken but determined. He had seen too much to stay quiet. Within 48 hours, he reached out to a trusted contact at the Travel Channel, promising to deliver what he called the missing proof, a corrupted but partially recoverable file from the night in the woods. He believed it showed direct evidence that something intelligent and possibly non-human had been manipulating the Expedition Bigfoot crew for years. But before he could even hand it over, the network pulled the plug. First came the subtle warnings. The production office was temporarily closed for restructuring. The cast's contracts were under review. Then the official statement: Expedition Bigfoot is entering an indefinite hiatus due to creative realignment. Fans were furious. Bryce, however, wasn't surprised. He'd already been tipped off by a former producer who told him bluntly they were told to shut it down. Orders came from higher up. That night, Bryce went live on his personal Instagram account to tell fans what had really happened. The stream lasted only 9 minutes, but it set the internet ablaze. His voice trembled as he said, "They told us we were chasing folklore. We weren't. We were chasing something they already knew was real, something they wanted buried." Within hours, the video vanished from all platforms. His account was locked, his posts wiped, and his publicist announced he was taking a mental health break. But leaked screenshots from crew group chats told another story. Conversations about unmarked trucks near the production camp, about deleted files reappearing with new timestamps, and about Bryce receiving a call from an unknown number saying, "You've shown too much." By the next day, Expedition Bigfoot was completely erased from Travel Channel's upcoming schedule. Reruns disappeared. Promotional clips vanished. Even YouTube interviews with Bryce were taken down without explanation. Fans called it censorship. Insiders called it damage control. But Bryce's final private message to a colleague said it best. They didn't cancel the show because it failed. They canceled it because we found what they were afraid of. The truth was out there, and someone was making sure it stayed hidden. Days after the Expedition Bigfoot purge, a strange upload appeared on an anonymous account under the name Forest Signal 1977. It was only 37 seconds long, but viewers immediately recognized Bryce Johnson's voice, his tone, tone was calm, almost defeated. "If you're seeing this, it means they got to me." The footage wasn't fake. It was real, but it wasn't Bigfoot. Not exactly. It was something else, something that's been here long before us. The clip showed fragments of the corrupted video from Mount Hood, a trembling night vision frame of a massive shadow moving between trees, its outline distorting like static. Then, a sudden flash of light, and a sound that made listeners' ears ring. The video cut to black. Within an hour, it vanished from the internet entirely, replaced by copyright takedown notices from unknown claimants. Bryce Johnson hasn't been seen publicly since. Fans claim his home in Los Angeles was emptied overnight, with neighbors reporting black SUVs parked outside earlier that week. The network refuses to comment, calling it a personal matter. But those who heard his final words can't forget them. Bryce said there were others, that the creature wasn't alone, and that it was waiting. Whether that message was a warning or a farewell, no one knows. Now, only one question remains. Was Bryce silenced because of what he discovered, or because he was about to tell the world the truth?